Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Very welcome to, again, Gems from Srimadbhagavatam session. Today we are covering the 33rd verse of the 7th chapter of 7th canto from Srimadbhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Please join us for invocation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiriyet. Shavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shamana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhatsatam Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So we are reciting this verse. Evam nirjita shadvarge kriyate bhaktir ishvare vasudeve bhagavati yaya samlabhyate ratihi. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. By these activities, and as mentioned above, so that's in verses 30th through 31, and then 32nd verse further enforces it. One is able to cut down the influence of the enemies, namely lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and jealousy. And when thus situated, one can render service to the Lord. In this way, one surely attains the platform of loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let's quickly cover those three verses and then we'll go to the purport. So text 30 through 31st talks about one must accept the bona fide spiritual master and render service unto him with great devotion and faith. Whatever one has in one's possession should be offered to the spiritual master, and in the association of saintly persons and devotees, one should worship the Lord. Hear the glories of the Lord with faith, glorify the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord, always meditate on Lord's lotus feet, and worship the deity of the Lord strictly according to the injunctions of the Shastra and Guru. Text 32, one should always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his localized representation as the Paramatma who is situated in the core of every living entity's heart. Thus, one should offer respect to every living entity according to that living entity's position or manifestation. Hare Krishna Devi, would you like to read the purport?
Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As mentioned in the verses 30 and 31, one's first duty is to approach the spiritual master, the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to begin rendering service to him. Prahlad Maharaj proposed that from the very beginning of life, Kaumara Acharya Pragya, a small child should be trained to serve the spiritual master while living at the Gurukul. Brahmachari Gurukule Vasandante Gurur Hitam. This is the beginning of the spiritual life. Guru Padashraya Sadhu Vartamanunu Vartananam Sad Dharma Pracha. By following the instructions of the Guru and the Shastras, the disciple attains the stage of devotional service and becomes unattached to possessions. Whatever he possesses, he offers to the spiritual master, the Guru, who engages him in Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. The disciple follows strictly and in this way learns how to control his senses. Then, by using his pure intelligence, he gradually becomes a lover of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami, Adho Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha. In this way, one's life becomes perfect and his attachment for Krishna becomes positively manifested. In that stage, he is situated in ecstasy, experiencing bhav and anubhav, as explained in the following verse.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Devi. So, my dear devotees, let's look at the background. What is the scenario? This is where we see Prahlad Maharaj. He is having conversation with his classmates. When is he having this conversation? When the teachers have just walked out for a little while. And all the classmates, they're interested in playing because, when cat is away, mice will play. So when the teacher is away, we know it from our experience. The students have the general tendency of, having conversations, talking about different things. And that's what was happening. Yet at the same time, here we see that Prahlad Maharaj, he is the speaker. He is speaking this to his classmates. Why? Because they were worried. They were curious, let's just say, that Prahlad Maharaj, he is the son of the king, Hiranyakashipu, he's the king of the universe. And if Prahlad Maharaj is not playing with them, is everything okay? Because sometimes there's a tendency for us to associate with someone in a high position. And at that time, Prahlad Maharaj took it as a great opportunity. He was seeing their view as recognizing his position, but he was using that platform as the speaker to enlighten them, to raise them from where they are. Now, in this verse, the word Shadvarga, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsara, they have been recognized, right? So, Srila Prabhupada in the purport very clearly states that these are the 6 symptoms of senses. So, these 6 symptoms of misdirected senses, right? Which is lusty desires, anger, Kam is lust, Krodh is anger, Lobh is greed, Mad is illusion. Once again, Moh is illusion, and then Mad is madness, and finally Matsara is jealousy. So here we are learning something, right? And because he was talking to his classmates who were demons, so he's trying to get the message across in the way that they would understand, right? But today we'll look at it from a different light because we are talking this among devotees. So we are looking to transform our aspirations into devotion. So that is the key aspect. And while the teachers were trying to teach them about politics, diplomacy, how to exploit your friends, how to suppress your enemies, all those kind of things, which is worldly and in duality, we are looking at how to not be master of outside, but master of inside, what is in our heart. So every human being is driven by aspirations, right? We aspire for love, to relate to someone or something. And we aspire for recognition. We aspire for intensity. We aspire for fulfillment. And we aspire for significance, right? So Prahlad Maharaj is not condemning these aspirations. He's revealing their destiny. So this verse in Srimadbhagavatam 7.7.33 is teaching us something, that when the 6 forces, the symptoms of senses, when they are within us, right, and they are mastered by us, we render devotion to Vasudeva Bhagavati. And from that devotion arises Rati, loving attachment. So that's where the belonging starts, right? So now, traditionally, these 6 symptoms of senses in material consciousness, they are referred to as enemies. Shad Varga. Varga has 2 meanings. While it is, Varga refers to categories, it also means enemies, or that's opposing us. Lust, anger, greed, illusion, pride, and envy. But tonight, we'll take a deeper look, right? What if these are not enemies? What if they are distorted aspirations? Right? What if lust really is the soul's longing for that divine connection? What if this anger is the aspiration for justice? And what if the greed is the aspiration for fullness? What if pride is an aspiration for identity? Instead of saying, oh, I'm proud and master of all these things, want to know where we belong, right? And what if the envy is aspiration to rise higher? So again, we talked about lust and envy, aham mameti. So when the word I comes with respect to the body, one tries to look at one's position and becomes envious of others. And mameti is mine. So that's where what is mine, that's where lust comes. So these are the two starting effects with the identification of body. But we, as spiritual beings, should be looking at who am I? Jivera Surupe Krishna and Nityadas. We are attendant servant of Krishna. That changes the whole aspiration. So it's actually redirection. So what is the problem? The problem is not aspiration. It is direction. So until our aspirations, they report to Krishna, they keep Krishna in the center, and take us out from that equation and keep us centered on Krishna. Until that happens, what are we doing? We are reporting, making our senses report to illusion. And that's ignorance, tamo. Tamo refers to darkness, but in true sense, it is ignorance. And Prahlad Maharaj is not saying that kill them. Oh, yes, thank you. Hare Krishna. Sorry, yes. Before we proceed further, we would like to seek blessings from Acharyas. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshitarine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dina Taranam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So when I was meditating on this, suddenly a thought came. We have a very nice gentleman at work. You know, he likes to keep the conversation really light. That's his intention. But his impact is, when he's talking, sometimes he laughs. But his pauses to laugh is at such places where it feels like he is mocking everyone. So he has good intention, but bad impact. So just, as I was coaching him, I was trying to give him that direction. And he didn't even know until it actually called out to him. So, and it was very interesting that once I did that, he got 3 calls regarding his previous sessions that he had been having. And everyone was saying that this session, you actually made the conversation very light and you are not mocking us. So he was very grateful that, he got this feedback and he was able to improve as how he's connecting with his audience. And this is where today we are not looking per se as Prahlad Maharaj is connecting. Yes, we want to understand the context. Right? Prahlad Maharaj, he is being taught by Shandana Marka in his school where his classmates are the sons and daughters of demons. So the sons of demons would always look from the teachings that they received. Prahlad Maharaj, he had much higher teaching, but he has to connect where they are at, not where he is at. And so he's using, we have to defeat our senses. We have to overcome our, the various feelings that's coming in. And he is looking from the perspective that he have to curb them. Srila Prabhupada used to explain this very nicely with short stories. One of the stories he covered was once a missionary, a Christian missionary, he goes to preach to coal miners. And he's saying, hell is a very bad place. It is very hot, very humid, very difficult to breathe, very dark. And the coal miners were looking at each other. So what's wrong with that? That's just like our coal mine. So he understood where they were at. And he said, and there is no newspaper. All of a sudden, everybody woke up like, what? There is no newspaper? That is very bad place to be at. So that's something of importance for the coal miners. They want to start their day with a newspaper. Without the newspaper, they think that the life is incomplete. And sometimes we even see people who are not coal miners. The first thing they look for is a newspaper. They want to know what's going on outside without realizing what is going on inside. We devotees, when we get up in the morning, what is our focus? Our focus is to get ready for the day and start with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So our focus is here. We are not looking to compare external factors. We are not looking for news outside, but we are looking for news inside. Let me prepare myself so that I'm ready to serve Krishna, Shri Radha Krishna. And with that mood, we'll be looking at these verses because Prahlad Maharaj is looking from his demoniac classmates' perspective, right? But we are going to look at what if this anger is actually misdirected energies? So there are various energies. So we as energy also have energies at our disposal. And that's why the concept of dasanu, dasanu, das comes in servant of the servant of the servant. And whatever is in our capability are the energies at our disposal that should be directed properly in the service of Shri Radha Krishna. But we are directing it towards our sense gratification. And that's where the real concern begins. And that's where this particular topic of Prahlad Maharaj preaching his classmates becomes very important. Why to take shelter of a spiritual master? So until our aspirations are reporting to Krishna, our energies stay misdirected, right? And they report to illusion. And we get the results as Kam, Krodh, Lobha, Manmatsara, lust, anger, pride, envy, delusion, again. So all this, greed. So we have to understand when he says, Nirijita, master them, master these senses, right? Because he's not saying become master and just suppress your senses. That is the mindset of Mayavadis. They're like, I don't want to engage in any action altogether. I want to just meditate on Brahman and merge into Brahman. That's not true realization. That's not the ultimate goal. So we have to look things from right perspective as Acharyas revealed to us. And here, Prahlad Maharaj is not saying, kill them, kill your senses. He says, Nirijita means master your senses, and master is alignment. So tonight we are going to learn how to become master, right? Not by destroying our nature, but by sanctifying it, but by redirecting these energies that are at our disposal. So today, of course, you can imagine, you might have already guessed, the acronym is MASTER, M-A-S-T-E-R. So what does M stand for? Well, the verse says we have to meet a guru, we have to accept a spiritual master, and we have to receive divine alignment. A in master is acknowledge our aspirations, recognize the deeper longing that's what is causing these 6 symptoms, the material symptoms, to appear because of misdirection. S, M-A-S. S is for sanctify the aspirations. So not just having aspirations is important, it's very important to direct them properly. So one is acknowledging, which is the toughest thing sometimes, that's half the work. And then just little push is sanctifying. So that way we elevate the direction. That is where we start experiencing a higher taste. But is it just easy to just sanctify, just to purify? No, we have to train these aspirations. That requires some tapasya. Waking up early in Brahma Muhurat is part of tapasya. Following regulative principles is part of tapasya. Now, sometimes people misunderstand tapasya to be inability, right? If you don't have food to eat, you can say, okay, I am a vegetarian because I hardly have anything to eat. But if you have all varieties to eat and yet you decide to choose vegetarian food, then it is tapasya. Tomorrow is Ekadashi here in Western world. So tomorrow when we observe Ekadashi, yes, all kind of grains are available to eat, but we decide not to eat to please Lord Krishna. And rather, more than that, is to keep ourselves purified. We don't want to invite sin within the very body which has been at our disposal to be engaged in Lord Krishna's service. So we are going to look at these aspects. How do we train these aspirations? How do we connect with various stories that we have been reading in Srimadbhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita's references as well? Yes. And E in Master, M-A-S-T, is train the aspiration, and E is to engage these aspirations. Once you have trained, right, we do, when we try to learn a sport or try to learn a new skill, we first train ourselves. But we don't just stay there. Then comes the time of action. And that's where we have to engage these aspirations. That is channeling these energies into bhakti, into devotion. And what's the result? R is not just the result, it's realize the rati. That's where this verse ends. It's talking about yaya sambhayate ratihi. And rati refers to mature into loving attachment. So we know where we belong. So the previous lust gets transformed into love. So yes, Prabhupada's purport makes this very clear. The spiritual life begins by approaching the spiritual master, right? And of course, we know the verse from Bhagavad Gita 4.34. Tad viddhi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya udeshyanti tajjnanam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. Tad viddhi paripatena. As per the process, we have to approach paripatena pariprashnena sevaya. So we have to approach a spiritual master, and we have to inquire from that spiritual master and serve that spiritual master. Updekshanti tajjnanam. And then we have to receive the instructions. So they will provide us the instruction. And this instructions is knowledge, jnana. Jnaninas tattva darshina, because they have seen the truth. So they're revealing this truth to us. We should not think of it as a phantasmagoria or something fancy to just hear and then continue to do the nonsense that we are doing before. No, it's to help us act. Arjun didn't do, what he was thinking of doing, quitting the battlefield. He heard instruction from Krishna and he engaged in his duty as a Kshatriya. So we have to understand that approach with submission, inquiry, and service are essential aspects. And why do we begin here? Because aspiration without guidance becomes confusion. They cause confusion. And when there's intensity without direction, what does it become? It becomes chaos. So a spiritual master, guru, does not suppress aspiration, but the guru aligns aspiration. We align our energies based on these redirected aspirations with the help of a spiritual master who acts as our guide, who's the captain of this ship. So Prahlad Maharaj is in this school of illusion. Yes, the demons, the sons of demons are there, Chanda and Amarka, sons of Shukracharya, they are the teachers. And when Prahlad was sent to this demonic Gurukula, under these teachers who are loyal to Hiranyakashipu, they instructed him in politics, diplomacy, material acquisitions, and sense enjoyment, how to exploit your friends and how to destroy your enemies, all these kind of things which are oriented towards duality from the bodily perspective. But something astonishing happened, right? Prahlad Maharaj had already met his guru, Narad Muni. When did he meet? While he was still in his mother's womb. And because of that earlier guidance, he was able to, not be affected by the external influence. And that external influence could not override his internal alignment. This is where we understand the higher taste. He had already experienced the higher taste. So, of course, he had no interest in lower taste and also no aversion. So when the teacher spoke, Chandanamarka spoke, Prahlad Maharaj, he remembered Narad Muni. What did Devashi Narad, the sage Narad, taught me? When the kingdom pressured him, he remembered Krishna. He was constantly meditating on Krishna. And when his father threatened him, the king of the universe, Hiranyakashipu, threatened him, Prahlad remembered devotion, the king of all universes. Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvalok maheshwaram. Sarvalok maheshwaram. Lord Krishna is the supreme proprietor of all material and spiritual universes, all that can be. So he remembered devotion, how to serve. So meeting the right guru does not remove difficulty. It gives inner anchoring. It situates ourselves properly. Without Narad's guidance, Prahlad would have absorbed in the culture of envy. He would have taken the teachings of Chanda and Amarka, and that would have created chaos. With guidance, he became the culture of devotion. Right? So what's the lesson? That Guru alignment is not informational, it is transformational. Sometimes people, they go and hear and participate in various events to hear the speaker speak. And then they rationalize it around what they are doing, instead of realizing that we all have something to improve upon, something to take back to. Let's look at the example of Arjun in Bhagavad Gita. Vishad Yoga, observing the army. Vishad Yoga is basically referring to that he is feeling at loss. Vishad refers to. So on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjun was overwhelmed, right? His aspiration for righteousness conflicted with the compassion he had with the various warriors on the field. His identity as warrior was conflicting with his various other identities, the bodily identities, I. He was not thinking just, I am a warrior. He was also thinking, I am a student. My teacher, Dronacharya, is there. I am a great-grandson, because my grandsire, Bhishma Pitama, is on the field. I am a brother because all my cousins and brothers are on this field. He's looking at his uncles and his cousins and everyone. And he's thinking, all these are mine. My nephews are on the field. So when he saw this conflict of identities related to the body, again, all these identities are related to the body. He dropped his bow. He's like, my skin is burning. I cannot hold Gandiv as my bow, and I'm feeling at loss. So at that moment, he did something extraordinary. What did he do? He said, I'm your disciple, please instruct me. He submitted to Krishna as a disciple. In that moment, the relationship changed. Till now, the relationship was that of a friend. Actually, there was even a different relationship, because Krishna was the charioteer, right? And Arjun was the warrior on the chariot. And how does the warrior on the chariot drives in different direction? He has to kick the charioteer to tell him which direction to go. If he kicks onto the left side, Krishna would know, okay, as charioteer, I have to go left. And if the kick is hard, that means I have to go there fast, right now. Because there's so much noise of all these weapons on the battlefield, there's no way to shout and tell the charioteer which direction to go. So in this case, actually, the position-wise, it is master and servant. Krishna is acting. Sometimes it happens. The father likes to serve his children. So that's how Krishna is taking it. And Arjun is in that position, but he actually says, you instruct me, you are my master, I accept you as my spiritual master, please direct me. And this sentence changed the whole history. Why? Because Arjun did not suppress confusion. He submitted his confusion in clear words, right? The moment he accepted guidance, chaos began transforming into clarity. Meeting the Guru is not a formality, right? It is the moment aspirations, they find direction, proper direction. Now let's look at, in this chapter, observing the army. There are two personalities actually observing the army. First is Duryodhana. First thing he's saying is, he's approaching Dronacharya and he's like, your disciple, Drishtadyumna, he has arranged this army of Pandavas very nicely. So he's actually, in a way, complaining that you were not discriminating in giving your knowledge. Now it's acting against you. And then he's comparing. First is complaining. So this is comparing externally. That he's saying, but our army is even very nice. We have 11 Akshayanis and we have great grandsire Bhishma Pitama and all these amazing warriors. While they have people driven by Bhima. And who's Bhima in front of Bhishma Pitama? So he's doing that comparison. And then he's also criticizing that, my dear teacher, you did not do right. So a student should never do that. While on the other hand, while Duryodhana is driven by political dualities that Prahlad Maharaj is addressing here in this verse, Arjun was taking a completely different look. He was looking from a compassion perspective. Like he was very compassionate to all the people. First he said, yes, Krishna, take my chariot. After the conches have blown, so there is no backing away. He is asking Krishna to take his chariot in the middle of the field so he can observe who are the personalities who are supporting this evil sons of Dhritarashtra. And in that state, when Krishna brings the chariot very strategically right in front of Dronacharya and Bhishma Pitama. So again, Krishna, he puts us in different situations to test us well. So here we see these two personalities and we appreciate the way Arjuna is submitting to Krishna. Right? And Srila Prabhupada, this is what he is giving us the message, that the spiritual master is the transparent, right, via medium. So it's very interesting. This is not the word transparent. This is transcendental parent. So sometimes transparent can be further split into saying things become visible as they are supposed to be. So from that perspective, without the mercy of the spiritual master, we realize that advancement is impossible. That's why the importance of a spiritual master is given. So much so that Lord Krishna, Yadad acharit sheshta tatta devitarujana. As great personalities perform, general populace will follow, innocent people will follow. Lord Krishna says that, but he shows it by his own example. Even though he is the supreme personality of Godhead, even though he is the supreme spiritual master, to set an example for general populace, he is accepting Garga Muni as his initiating spiritual master. He is accepting Sandipani Muni as his instructing spiritual master. So we understand that, it is to set example that he is doing. And what does Guru means? Spiritual master is also translated as Guru. Guru means heavy. Yes, so we should be ready that he is heavy with knowledge, he is heavy with realization, and he is sometimes also heavy with his chastisement. We should be ready because this is in our favor. If he is not heavy, if the spiritual master is not heavy, I keep saying he because Srila Prabhupada uses the word him. But in reality, we should not attach a specific gender with spiritual master because spiritual master is a servant of Krishna. And a servant of Krishna is only focused on Krishna, pleasing Krishna. So it is completely independent. And in history, again, we have seen there's so many ladies who have acted as gurus as well. So it is not related to a specific gender, like the word guru. It is related to the instructing spiritual master or initiating spiritual master. And submission is the beginning of knowledge, that we are ready to be disciplined. What's the meaning of disciple? Disciple is a person who is ready to be disciplined. So we all should be ready to be disciplined because it's for our benefit, right? Association with advanced devotees, what does it do? It stabilizes our enthusiasm. Utsahan nishayadharya, Srila Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So Utsahan is the first aspect, enthusiasm, right? And this guidance that they provide, that prevents deviation and provides falling into the same old bad habits that we may have acquired because of this bodily association. And Prahlad's teaching is beginning with training. He's saying that we have to accept a spiritual master and train under a spiritual master. So what does it prove? Training means we have to go about things systematically. We cannot transcend ego alone. We cannot just fix ourselves on our own. We need external help. Right? So mentorship accelerates purification. So the presence of Guru accelerates our learning and our realizations and helps us come to that higher level. Why? Because when we are humble, it opens up our heart. And the Guru guides us towards love. So we are ready to be guided. Right? So once someone said, I follow my heart. But the heart was untrained. So that's like following the GPS with no signal or without proper guidance. Sincerity is misleading. And what does Guru do? He recalibrates the compass. Sometimes if you start with GPS and you say, okay, my GPS is working, I have signal, but you forget to put the destination. And you're just falling on the road. Okay, I'm on a road, I'm driving. I don't know where to go, but I'm driving. Would you reach your destination? No. You will spend your precious life, time, as well as the vehicle, the fuel, and so many facilities that you have. Sometimes somebody could even say, why do I need correction? I don't need correction. That's like saying, I don't need mirrors. Without reflection, distortion will grow. And when distortion grows, we suffer. What does Guru or spiritual master do? They provide us clarity so that we don't suffer. We actually achieve, because what is the purpose? Why are we even existing? Anand Bhaya Abhyasat. We are all seeking happiness. And so we can directly connect with who we are and where we want to go. And how we want to go is the direction that the Guru provides. Now, sometimes people say, I want to be independent. I want independence, right? But independence without wisdom becomes slavery to impulse. Guru grants higher independence. He gives us interdependence. He helps us becoming dependent on Krishna. And that dependent on Krishna means we have to serve Krishna with all the facilities that he has provided us. And that would give us true solace. So we should ask various questions like, who is shaping my spiritual direction? Who is helping me go further in my goal for life? Right? Or do I have a goal for life? That could be the first question. And if we don't, then we want to know what is the goal of life, especially the human life, which is rare. And why do I resist corrections? Why do I resist being disciplined? What aspirations that I have that need alignment? Do I have any of these factors? Lust, anger, pride, envy, greed, delusion. So again, which of these are actually the symptoms that we need fixing. Just like a person who has fever has high temperature, a person who has cold is sneezing and feeling weak and shivering. So these are the symptoms, and we have to cure those sicknesses that we have. And for that, we have to be coachable. And sometimes we can even ask, am I even coachable? Am I even ready to accept the direction? And where does my ego blocks my growth? So again, some of the practices that we can start with is regularly consult with senior devotees. Those who have realization, those we see are showing the absence of these material symptoms, right? And we have to take to at least one instruction and start implementing immediately. Try to see what is inside. We have to master what's inside, not what's outside. There was an interesting conversation we are having where we are saying somebody gives you a knife and say, okay, now you're the master, prove that you're a master. You can use that knife to scare people around and get their wealth. Yes, that's one way of use of knife. Or you can use the same knife to cut nice vegetables and prepare nice bhoga offering and offer it to the Lordship. So the same object is there, but it's our desire, our aspirations, the intention with which we engage in, that matters. Again, cell phone. Sometimes people talk about, oh, cell phone is bad. No, cell phone is not bad. This is actually an element of material energy. And Lord Krishna, he says, Mam Maya Duratya. My material energy is very difficult to cross. Mame prapadyante maya me tantarante. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross over it. Because devotees would understand that Maya is very happy when she is engaged in Lord Krishna's service. So when we use the same cell phone in Krsna Katha to engage in devotional service, to please Lord Krishna and his devotees, to please the spiritual master, the same equipments, they become transcendental, because that's where they are above the three modes of material nature in their proper position. So just like we have energies, we have other energies at our disposal, and how we direct those energies is very important. So this was all about mastery, right? So what are we looking at from mastery perspective? we are looking at meet the spiritual master. We have to not just meet the spiritual master as meeting a person, but meet with their instructions. So again, how do we serve spiritual master? There are two ways we can serve spiritual master. We can Vapu Seva or Vani Seva. Which one is greater? Vapu Seva is serving the very body, the very being of the spiritual master. And Vani Seva is serving the instruction or following the instruction of the spiritual master. Of the two, Acharyas revealed Vani Seva is much higher. So it's not that when the spiritual master is there, we don't serve him personally, we should serve him. But even greater than that is serving the spiritual master instruction, the instruction given by spiritual master. And it becomes really important when the spiritual master is not present that we are following the instructions and serving, and again, the instructions of the spiritual master. That is also very important. That's where, again, when the cat is away, mice will play becomes relevant. Sometimes people have this mood of doing a lot of show in front of the spiritual master, but when the spiritual master leaves, they go back to doing their own nonsense, wanting to push forward their material aspirations, to get higher positions and to push others down and those kind of activities. We don't even want to think about it. Now, in MA is for acknowledge our aspirations. So first we have to acknowledge what do we aspire to do, recognizing that longing beneath each impulse that's showing this negative impact of lust, anger, pride, envy, greed, illusion, right? Prahlad Maharaj, he's listing just 6 of things, Shadvarga, right? But beneath each is an aspiration. Kama is lust. Lust is desire for relationship. So we are looking at bodily relationships, the intimacy as kama, but that is on the bodily platform. Krodha is desire for justice. One becomes angry when they feel that some injustice has been done, when things that they wanted did not get done. Lobha is desire for fullness. Srila Prabhupada said that this material world, the universe has everything to satisfy everyone's need, but it doesn't have enough to satisfy even one person's greed. So we should take that and understand it properly. Moha is just desire for absorption. So we want to be related to something, we want to be absorbed, in meditating about something. So that's moha. Mada is desire for identity. It's again when we are proud of something, so because we are looking at what's around us, what we are, but we are supposed to be looking for our true identity. Jivera Surupaya Krishna Nityadas. And Matsarya is desire to excel. So none of these are actually evil. They're just symptoms of those aspirations. Bhakti does not amputate aspiration. Bhakti sanctifies it. Now, how do we understand this? There are beautiful stories like Dhruv Maharaj's misguided aspiration. What was his aspiration? Young Dhruv Maharaj, when he was a toddler, he was instructed by his stepmother, Suruchi. He wanted to get on his father's lap, just like Uttam Shloka, Suruchi's son was sitting. Suruchi was the stepmother. Dhruv Maharaj's mother is Suniti. And Suruchi pushes him off from his father's lap. And she says, you have to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, and ask to be born from my womb. Only then you are qualified to sit on your father's lap. What is she saying? That you are not entitled to the throne. You are not entitled to the kingdom that your father has. My son is entitled. So now Dhruv Maharaj, he approached his mother Suniti and he's reflected what he heard. And she says, well, she is right. But you have to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead if you want something. So he wanted his father's kingdom. He says, no, I'll have greater kingdom than my father's kingdom. Well, even greater than my grandfather, Swayambhuva Manu's kingdom. No, even greater than my great-grandfather's kingdom, Lord Brahma's kingdom. So that was his aspiration. So his desire was intense. He was burning with that insult, and he was consumed in that thought, right? Was that desire evil? No, it wasn't evil. Was that aspiration misdirected? Yes, it was misdirected. So Dhruv, he approached Narad with material ambition. So Devashi Narad, he came to know, This is boy, he is walking towards the forest to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let me go and test him. Sage Narad did not shame him for his material aspirations. He elevated Dhruva. He gave him the direction as how he can approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he knows that Krishna is pure. So we may be impure, I may be impure, you may be impure, but when we are in contact with Krishna, he is all pure, so we become pure. So that was his direction, says Narad. Through mantra meditation, Dhruva's aspirations, they transform. And so when he finally saw Lord Vishnu, what did he say? He said that I was searching for broken pieces of glass. Now I have found a diamond. And what is he asking for? Let me serve my spiritual master, says Narad. That's his inspiration. So we are coming up back to the same point. The same ambition, but new object, right? Aspiration purified becomes devotion, right? And this is where even he is glorified and blessed even by his stepmother, Suruchi, when he returns back home. Let's look at another example from Vrindavan. Yes, Vrindavan pastimes, where Kanha is constantly playing his wonderful pastimes. The gopis, they are longing for him. Right? The gopis of Vrindavan, they experience intense longing for Krishna. Now, externally, somebody could call it, again, attachment, that they are attached, they are lusty, right? But spiritually, it was the highest aspiration. Their longing was not self-centered. It was God-centered. It was Krishna-centered. It was Vasudeva consciousness. And their so-called karma, that feeling that they have, was actually prema, love. So this is the ultimate promotion model that we see in the case of gopis, right? Why? Because what appears as desire becomes divine love, like divine love when centered on Krishna. So again, yes, that when we direct the same energy towards Krishna, centering on Krishna, it transforms, it spiritualizes. So the difference between bondage and liberation is not intensity. It is the object. Are we putting ourselves, our senses in the center, or are we keeping Krishna in the center? So Prahlad, he is doing alignment to protect aspiration. Arjun is submitting to clarify his aspirations. Dhruv Maharaj, he is putting his ambition that transforms into devotion. And gopis, their longing becomes divine love. Right? None of them killed their aspirations. None of them subdued the aspirations. They just sanctified them. That's purity, purification. In true sense, that's what we have to look at it. That lust is perverted reflection of love of God. We hear Srila Prabhupada saying this in many of his lectures. We hear him and the acharyas write it, but we have to also see and realize it in the lives of Bhagavatam. That's why in Bhagavad Gita we say that Lord Krishna is revealing what should be done. And Bhagavatam is revealing how it has to be done. That's why Bhagavatam is literally encouraged where Krishna himself is teaching. And in Chaitanya Chaitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna himself comes in the mood of a devotee, in the mood of Radharani, the greatest devotee of the Lord, the greatest worshipper of the Lord. Radha comes from Aradhita. Aradhita means the greatest worshipper of the Lord. And he's teaching us in her mood how to be a devotee in this age of Kali. And he's taking us to the spiritual path through the simplest process. Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam eva kevalam, kala nashtyeva gatiranyatha. So in this Kali age, just by chanting of the holy name, we can overcome all the ill effects of this age, right? Love is just a perverted reflection of love of God. So when we direct it towards Krishna, it takes its true form. And what are we seeking? We are seeking love, right? And to have desire is actually a symptom of life. It is not we have to curb the desire. We have to redirect the desire. We have to purify the desire. We have to channel the desire, right? So when we purify the desire, we transform our very being and properly situate ourselves. Devotion engages the whole personality. It's not just a small part of the face. This is where people talk about Karmane vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. They like that first phrase, karmane vadikaraste. You have the right to perform your duty. Yes, I'm a karma yogi. I'm performing my duty as a husband, performing my duty as an employee, performing my duty as a father. Well, ma phaleshu kadachana. But you are not entitled to the fruits of your labor. Nobody likes this particular perspective from material perspective, and they are trying to rationalize it. And don't be attached to not perform your activities or think that you are the cause of them. That is also very important, right? Somebody said, I wish I had no desires. Well, that would make that person a stone, right? Means material energy is jada by its nature. It doesn't have its own consciousness. We use material energy based on our aspirations, our desires. So desire proves that we are alive. Material energy on its own is jada, means it's inactive. So the question is not whether to desire, but what to desire, right? Somebody could say, I'm too emotional. Well, Krishna does not want numbness. He wants purified emotion, right? The same passion that fuels drama can fuel devotion. Arjun, he was very emotional, but Krishna redirected. He said, Mam Smaran Yuddhacha. Arjun was saying, I don't want to fight. Krishna said, no, you as a Kshatriya, you have to fight. But remembering me, fight. So this is a greater direction. So again, we have to acknowledge our aspirations. Right? So we covered what M is to meet the spiritual master, which is to understand the instructions and align ourselves, so to receive alignment. And A is to acknowledge our aspirations, which is to recognize aspiration, that we have aspirations, we have different tendencies. And now comes the point of S, where we sanctify the aspirations, right? We elevate the direction, we follow it, right? So we have acknowledged that beneath every impulse is aspiration. It's driven by desires, fueled by desire, yes. Now comes the turning point, right? Aspiration means redirection toward Krishna, not towards the senses, toward Krishna. So yes, from that perspective, it may look external, but where is Krishna? Is sitting as Paramatma in our very heart. So it is more internal channel that we have to do. Sanctification means redirection towards Krishna, not suppression, not denial, elevation. Prahlad uses the word Nirijita, mastered. That is true mastery. Mastered means energy aligned with truth, the supreme truth, the absolute truth. So let's look at this transformation a little more carefully. Let's dive a little deeper. So we talked about kama, lust, right? That can transform into prema, love. That's prema, aspiration, misdirected, poverty reflected as kama. So kama is longing. Materially, it seeks pleasure from the bodies, from other objects. Sometimes people love their phones. Sometimes then they love their own children. We have seen those examples. Especially it becomes longing for the Lord, right? When it is redirected towards Krishna. The intensity still remains the same, but the object changes, the goal changes, and the soul's deepest aspiration is divine connection, that yoga. Now, it was very interesting. Sometimes people were talking about, and this is where I see a lot of people talking about external things, yoga versus yoga. Well, both are incorrect if you look at it. It's not yoga because you forgot to put after ga, and it's not yoga because you put an extra after ga. Yoga. But then sometimes when people say yoga, other person may hear it yoga, yoga, yoga. So they just happen to have added an extra a, but reducing something. If somebody was to give you 100 rupees and they say, I'll give you a 99, you'll feel a little lost. But if they say, I'll give you 101, you won't feel as bad because, you got your 100 and the person is tipping you extra. So again, we should just stay with yoga because that's what is being meant. Krodha is protective passion. Basically, its anger is intensity towards perceived injustice that we have experienced. So materially it harms relationship, but it spiritually protects dharma. Dharma refers to our intrinsic nature. Dharma of sugar is sweet. Dharma of chili is hot. So dharma is what is our true nature, swabhava. Jivera surupaya Krishna nityadas, that we are eternal, servant of Krishna. So anger purified becomes moral courage. It gives us courage to engage in devotion. And lobha is greed for Harikatha. Now, greed is something Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says is the greatest uh, potency that we have that can be directed, right? Greed is a hunger without limit. So material it consumes endlessly, but spiritually it becomes insatiable eagerness to hear and chant. The same fire, but different fuel. What is it channeling towards? Moha is divine absorption. Okay, it transforms to divine absorption. How does it do that? Illusion is misplaced absorption. But bhakti does not eliminate absorption. It removes that illusion, which is the tamo. It sanctifies it. So moha becomes absorption, Krsna Katha, absorption, Krishna Leela, absorption, Vrindavan pastime, absorptions in devotees, the stories and realizations. Mother gets transformed to spiritual identity. Pride is identity energy, right? So material pride says, I am superior. But what is spiritual identity says, I belong to Krishna. So identity purified becomes stability. Matsarya, last but not the least, is inspired aspiration, right? So Matsarya gets directed and we compares and resents. But purified comparison, what does it inspire? If they serve Krishna so beautifully, I will also serve Krishna like them, right? This is healthy aspiration. Now, Hanuman's anger was transformed, as we see, when Sita was insulted and Ram was dishonored in Lanka, right? Again, in words, through words, Raman was doing that. Hanuman's anger burned fiercely. He leapt across the ocean, he entered Lanka and eventually set it ablaze. Now, was that anger demoniac? No, it was sanctified anger. His intensity was not ego-driven, it was devotion-driven. So anger aligned with dharma becomes protection, where passion when aligned with service becomes sacred fire. So again, we have the same fire which can set a house on ablaze, but the same fire can help us cook nice bhoga offering for the deities, can light up lamp for offering to the deities, can help us keep the whole environment very warm and sanctified. So we see how these, and tea is the train the aspiration. That's why we talked earlier about tapasya. Tapasya is very important, right? Training means we have to follow a routine, we have to follow the regulation, we have to be accountable for our actions, and we have to practice, practice, practice. But sometimes people say practice makes a man perfect. No, it only makes it permanent. So if we practice the right thing, we will make the right thing permanent. If we practice the wrong thing, then it will have the wrong effect. And yes. So here we are looking at how to transform, and finally engaging these aspirations in the right direction is very important so that we can realize Rati. So my dear devotees, we talked about how Prahlad is helping us align properly. Arjuna is submitting. Dhruva's ambitions are transforming. Hanuman's anger is sanctifying. Raghunath Das, he was son in a very rich family, and he was taking proper training. He did not oppose his parents. He was training when he's ready. Mrigari, the hunter, right? He was cruel towards Mrig means deer, Ari means enemy of deer. So he was half killing animals. But Sage Nada directed him towards chanting, so it turned into compassion. And Sudama's longing expression was further transformed towards Krishna, and he actually understood the way to serve. And gopis, we talked about, their aspirations were perfected into love, the topmost level. So this is elevation. So when aspiration meets guidance, under the guidance of a spiritual master, it is sanctified, it helps us train properly and is engaged. So that blossoms into Rati. And Rati is the one that fulfills the heart. So again, we can look at these and talk out, think of it as lessons learned is that we do not have to fight our nature. We have to sanctify it, right? Do not suppress aspiration, spiritualize them. And we meet guidance, we recognize longing, we elevate desire, right? And we structure those desires towards Krishna, engaging our senses in service of Krishna, and let it mature into love for Vasudeva. So when aspiration bows to Krishna, the heart finds its home. Hare Krishna. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we are hearing, we learn in this session on gems from Srimadbhagavatam, as when Prahlad Maharaj is saying, mastering over the 6 symptoms of the senses as Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsara, lust, anger, pride, envy, illusion, and lust, anger, pride, envy, illusion, and there's 6th one. We can relate to things in proper perspective, that we have to sanctify these various energies that are in our disposal. And the way to do it is by following the instruction of the spiritual master.
Lust, anger, greed.
Greed, yes, Kam, Krodh, Lobh. Greed is the greatest potency in our hand, yes. Lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, and illusion. So here we can take to this lesson and continue to look at what is that one thing I can do to suppress. Do I have these feelings? First, acknowledgement is important. And how can I transform these feelings in service of Krishna? That should be, and we can take up small steps. There is a saying in India, "Boon boon se ghada bata hai." With every drop, the vessel gets full. So we have to make small corrections in our behavior and seek the blessings of Guru and Gauranga. Srimadbhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavad ki Janant Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful week in Krishna consciousness. Om Tat Sat.